Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is contact. Let's take a look at some of the definitions or ways that we use this verb. The first way you're likely to hear the verb contact used is to mean to communicate with someone in order to share or to give information or to receive it. You will see this verb used in the imperative on many flyers, sometimes in emails, or other forms of communication as well. So, many businesses, offices, schools, etc., will say things like, if you need more information, contact, right? So they're inviting you to communicate. And this communication, it could be through a phone call, through a text message, or an email. Usually, that information or the way in which they want to receive that communication is communicated on the flyer, in the email, etc. A second way you might hear contact used is to mean to touch. In the previous weeks, we focused a lot on verbs that you might hear as you watch the Olympics or see as you read about various events. Sometimes you'll hear this in sports like soccer or basketball when a ball can go out of bounds, sort of leave the playing area. And so you might hear kind of like who contacted the ball last, right? Who touched it last. You should know that contact is a regular verb. To make the progressive form, all you need to do is add ing to form contacting. The past tense and participle forms of this verb are made by adding ed. And since our base verb, contact, ends in a T sound, we're going to add an extra syllable when we use this past tense or participle form. So your verb should sound like this: contacted, contacted, right? So I'm adding that extra syllable with id. You'll be happy to know we don't have any additional phrasal verbs with different meanings to learn for this verb contact. So that's going to allow us to focus on some practice. And today we're going to focus on modals and talking about ability. So as you can see from my notes on the screen, we can talk about past ability. So we'll explore that in just a second. We can talk about our ability in the present or our ability in the future. And with all of these different tenses, past, present, and future, we're going to have two ways to do it. The first will be with a modal, and that's could or can, depending on the verb tense. And we can then use the base verb after either of those. And then our second way to talk about ability is to use be able to and then a base verb. And so again, we're going to make slight modifications to that or slight changes, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future. So let's take a look at past ability in the affirmative. Okay, so to do this, I'm going to use the modal could and then my base verb. This is true no matter what our subject is. Let's take a look at an example sentence. She could contact him before the meeting. Okay, so we're saying she had the ability to do that. And that leads us to our second way to share that same idea. I said we can use be able to, but since this is past, we need to use a past form of be. So that's going to be was if our subject is he, she, or it, or it will be were if our subject is I, you, we, or they. You can see that in the exact same sentence here. She was able to contact him before the meeting. So both of those are going to have the same meaning. Now let's look at negative past ability. To do this, we're going to put a not after our modal or a not after our be verb and then follow that same pattern or same structure. Let's take a look at our two examples. The doctor couldn't contact patients. The doctor wasn't able to contact patients. So again, maybe there was some sort of emergency, couldn't come to the office today. wasn't able to communicate with them that their appointments had been canceled or changed. Okay? So again, we're talking about ability, was not able. Now, we can ask questions in the past about someone's ability to do something. And again, we still have these two structures. We can use our modal could. Could they contact the office, right? So we're talking, were they able to, right? And that leads to our second one there. So we're starting with our past tense form of be, were. Were they able to contact the office? Okay. Now let's take a look at present ability. This is going to be similar, but we're going to make small changes here. To talk about present ability, we're going to change from could to can. So we'll have can and then our base verb. And again, this is true no matter what our subject is. And the second way to talk about present ability is again, be able to. But here we're going to use a present form of be. So that's am, is, or are. And that's going to change based on the subject. Let's look at our two example sentences. We can contact the city about the problem. We're able to contact the city about the problem. So someone has the ability now. They have a phone number, they have the time, they are able. Now, to make negative present ability sentences, again, we can insert not after our modal or not after our be verb and then follow that same structure. I can't contact my family abroad. I'm not able to contact my family abroad. Unfortunately, I've had some students share this with me recently due to conflicts, the pandemic, and other issues. They have not had the ability to communicate with family members. If we want to ask a question, a yes or no question about someone's present ability, we can start with our modal, then have our subject, then the base verb, or we can start with our present form of be that matches the subject and then do able, to, and the base verb. Let's look at our two examples. Can he contact a friend? Is he able to contact a friend? Again, both of these are going to have the same meaning. Now let's take a look at the simple just the future in discussing ability. What you're going to see here with the modal is that it is exactly the same as present ability. So there might be time signals in our sentence or as part of our conversation that indicate this is a future thing. So as we look at our modal examples in the affirmative, the negative, and yes or no, they're going to look exactly like the present ability ones. Okay. We will have a slight difference with our be able to, right? We're going to use will. That's going to help indicate future. So will be able to, and our base verb. That'll be our second way. Let's look at the affirmative or positive sentences discussing future ability. She can contact the teacher if she's sick. She will be able to contact the teacher if she's sick, right? So the context here is helping us know that this will be true in the future, or she will have this ability in the future. Again, if I want to make negative sentences, I can insert not after my modal can or not after will. And I haven't pointed out that some people will use contractions, so could not becomes couldn't, cannot becomes can't, and will not becomes won't. Let's look at our two sentences. We can't contact the boss when she's on vacation. We won't be able to contact our boss when she's on vacation. Okay, so again, kind of in the future here. Finally, let's look at our yes or no questions to talk about future ability. Again, our yes or no format's going to look exactly like our present ability one. So we have our modal, then our subject, then the base verb. Our second form, we can use will, the subject, and then be able to, and the base verb. So our two examples. Can you contact someone? Will you be able to contact someone? Right? So we don't know what the maybe set of circumstances are here, but we're asking about someone's ability in the future to communicate, to contact. So all of these sentences and examples here really tie back to that first definition. That is certainly a more common way to use contact. Now let's spend a little time looking at some words that are related to our verb contact. And the first word we're going to look at is just the noun form of this word. So same spelling, same pronunciation. Something that maybe is a little different here is that the noun contact can have a number of different meanings. We're just going to start with 3 today. The first way you might hear contact used relates back to our second definition. So it's the state or the condition of someone physically touching someone or something. Here's an example. Did he make contact with the ball before it went out of bounds? Right? So again, maybe a question you might hear connected to sports or a game. A second way to use the noun contact is to refer to a person who has associated with a patient with a contagious disease. So, with this particular usage, you may have heard this in connection to COVID, right? So, and you'll see that in our example sentence here. They came into contact with someone who has COVID-19. So they have been near, associated, been close, maybe close without a mask in this case, and that's essentially what that means. A third way, to use contact is to refer to the state of communicating or meeting with someone. An example of this, the teacher is in daily contact with his students. Another related word that you might hear often is contact lens. This is a noun, and it's a thin plastic lens that touches, there's our connection to the verb, touches the surface of the eye. And they're used to help correct visual problems. So someone who's maybe unable to see close or unable to see far. Contact lenses are another option instead of glasses. An example sentence here, he got contact lenses when he was 16. It's one way you might hear it. But many Americans like to communicate faster, quicker, right? So contact lenses sometimes just gets shortened to contacts. Right? Someone might say, do you wear contacts? Instead of contact lenses. But they have the same meaning. Just want you to be aware of that. The last noun we're going to look at is again something you've likely heard a great deal about in the last 17 months. It's contact tracing. This is the process of attempting to identify people who have been in contact with someone who has an infectious disease. You can see that in our example sentence here. The college has used contact tracing and quarantining to stop the spread of COVID-19 on campus. Connected to the pandemic, we also had people who got hired to do contact tracing. They became contact tracers, right? There we have that so we know it's a person who does this particular work. This has been really important to let people know you were close by, you might have it, stay home, stay away from others so that you don't spread it. It was a really, and was and still is, a powerful tool to try and stop the spread of COVID-19. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.